All right, let's talk about one of my favorite parts of Spring Data JPA, writing queries. We're going to go through everything, from the super simple stuff that feels like magic, all the way to having total control. By the end of this, you'll have a complete guide to really owning your data access layer. So let's get into it.
Let me ask you something, because I think every developer has felt this pain. Are you just tired of writing the same boilerplate database code again and again? You know the drill. Get the entity manager, create the query, bind all the parameters, execute it, handle the exceptions. It's just so much work for something that should be simple.
So what if I told you that we could write a complete, totally functional database query without writing a single line of implementation code? I know it sounds a little bit like magic, but with Spring Data JPA, it's very, very real. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with what I call the magic of using method names to create queries. Then we'll peek behind the curtain and see how that magic actually works. After that, we'll see how to take the steering wheel with the @query annotation, get way smarter about performance with projections, and then we'll put it all together in your complete query toolkit. Okay, first up, the magic of method names. Honestly, this is the feature that makes most developers just fall in love with Spring Data JPA. For your day-to-day work, this is where you're going to see the biggest jump in productivity. So, what exactly is a derived query? Well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. You just define a method in your repository interface, and Spring literally parses the name of that method to figure out what query you want. The most important part, you write zero implementation, none.
Now take a look at this. This code snippet right here, that's it. That's the entire implementation. You just declare a method called find by email address and last name in your interface. At runtime, Spring magically provides a class that knows exactly how to turn that name into a select statement with a where clause that checks for both the email and the last name. It's incredible.
And this slide, this just says it all, right? On the left, you've got the old way of doing things with JPA, manually writing out queries, wrestling with the entity manager, setting every parameter by hand, And on the right, the Spring Data JPA world, you just name the method. That's it. This isn't just about writing less code, it's about writing code that's way cleaner and harder to mess up.
So yeah, it feels like magic, but it's not actually magic. It's just a really, really clever parser. So let's pull back the curtain for a second and see how this query builder works so you can really understand what's going on.
We'll stick with our example method here, find by email address and last name. The entire secret is locked up right inside this name. Spring Data has this parser that reads it almost like a sentence in English.
Here's how it thinks. First, it looks for an intro phrase like find by or get by. That tells it what to do. Then, it takes the rest of the name, the criteria, and splits it up using keywords like and or. Finally, it takes the leftover pieces, email address and last name, and matches them to the property names in your person entity. See? It's a really simple, predictable system once you know the rules.
And that parser is seriously powerful. This little cheat sheet is just a taste. You can do date ranges with between, you can do text searches with like or containing, you can even add sorting right in the method name with order by desk. All of this power just by naming your methods in a specific way.
Look, derived queries are fantastic. They'll probably handle, 80% of what you need. But what about that other 20%? What happens when you've got complex joins or subqueries, or your method names just get ridiculously long? Well, for that, we need to take full control.
This is really the natural limit of derived queries. You can end up with these crazy method names that are almost impossible to read. And some queries, you just can't express them with a method name at all. When you hit that wall, it's time to reach for the @query annotation. And here it is. The @query annotation basically lets you say, hey Spring, thanks, but I got this. You can provide your own JPQL or even native SQL right there as a string. Suddenly, you have the full power of the database language at your fingertips. And notice the method name find by email address. It doesn't matter to Spring anymore. It's just there for us humans to understand what the method does.
The big thing to remember here is that @query is your ultimate escape hatch. It always takes precedence over the method name strategy. It lets you write anything you want, from a simple select to a super complex native query. You can even use it for updates and deletes. It's the go-to tool for total precision and control.
Okay, so we know how to fetch the data we want, but are we fetching it efficiently? Our next topic, projections, is all about performance. It's about making sure you only pull back the exact data you need and absolutely nothing more.
So here's the problem. When you run a query to get, say, a person entity, you get everything, the ID, the name, the address, all of it. But what if you just needed a list of names to populate a drop-down menu? You're wasting memory and network bandwidth fetching all this extra data that you're just going to throw away.
This slide shows that before state perfectly. We asked for a person's name, but we got this huge, heavy object with all this nested address data we don't need right now. For one record, maybe it's not a big deal, but for 10,000 records, that's a serious performance problem.
The solution is actually beautiful in its simplicity. It's called a projection. All you do is create a simple interface that defines getters for only the properties you actually want. Here, we made a names-only interface. It's basically a contract, a shopping list for the data shape we want.
And this is the cool part. When you change your repository method to return a list of names only, Spring Data JPA is smart enough to completely rewrite the query. Instead of select everything, it'll do something like select first name, last name. The result is this super lean, efficient object that only has what you asked for. This is a massive, massive win for performance.
Wow, we have covered a lot of ground, haven't we? From simple method names to complex queries and serious performance tuning. So for our final section, let's bring it all together into one powerful, complete toolkit.
So here it is, your complete toolkit. Your first move should always be derived queries. They're simple and they get the job done fast. When you need more power or complexity, you reach for the @query annotation to get full control. And to make your app absolutely fly, you use projections to only get what you need. And remember, this is just the beginning. There are even more tools like Pageable for pagination and Sort waiting for you to discover.
We've built this whole pyramid from the ground up, starting with effortless queries and moving all the way to fine-tuned control and performance. You now have a fantastic set of tools to handle pretty much any data task you can think of. So the final question is really for you. How are you going to use this toolkit to simplify your code, boost your performance, and build even better applications? Thanks for joining me.